The Italian railway system plays a vital role in the country's transport infrastructure, providing a sustainable and efficient mode of travel for both passengers and freight. Within the energy transition, transport is the end-use sector with the highest reliance on fossil fuel globally. At European level, transport is responsible for as much as a quarter of all greenhouse gases emission, whereby road transport is the main contributor with a total amount of 27 megatons of CO2. From literature, studies highlighted the low impact of rail transport in terms of GHG emission compared to other transport modes. In this regard, increasing the share of rail traffic reduces carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxide pollution. Therefore, while the rail sector may appear to be one of the most decarbonized, it is crucial to analyze the endogenous emissions related to the necessary energy production as future energy demand increases. Additionally, exploring alternative fuels and the potential for renewable energy self-consumption will be important for further reducing the sector's environmental impact. By integrating renewable energy sources and maximizing their use on-site, the rail sector can significantly minimize its reliance on conventional energy sources and achieve even greater environmental benefits. With a particular focus on Italy, the transport sector as a whole is responsible for approximately 30% of the total energy consumption, resulting in the major player of the chart. Transport is followed by the residential sector that account for 27%. The remaining consumption it is attributed mainly to productive sector such as industry, commercial and public sector. And then a minor share it is attributed to agriculture, fishing and non-energy uses. Let's look at the energy consumption from the perspective of different energy sources and carriers. The graph we are about to examine shows three pieces of information: the total final energy consumption at the national level, the energy consumed by the entire transport sector, and specifically the portion of which the rail sector is responsible. This comparison will help us to understand the railway sector's share in the overall energy usage and its impact on the environment. From this picture, it becomes clear that the majority of oil and petroleum products consumption it is attributed to the transportation sector. In fact, the transportation sector accounts for approximately 3/4 of the national total final consumption of oil and petroleum products. Besides oil, other energy sources used in the transportation sector include natural gas, biofuels, and electricity. Within this sector, the railway sector is responsible for only 20 petajoules out of the total final consumption of 1,500 petajoules for transportation. Regarding the rail sector, the main energy carrier it is electricity. However, a closer look to the sector, as illustrated by this pie chart, reveals that it is not entirely electrified. In fact, 92% of the rail sector relies on electricity, while the remaining 8% depends on oil and petroleum products. Now, pay attention to this graph that shows the consumption of energy by the railway sector over time. The energy consumption trends in the Italian railway sector experienced a remarkable growth over the last 3 years, 2020, 2021 and 2022, as a partial recovery after the COVID-19 singularity. Looking more in details to the different energy carriers, it is possible to see that electricity consumption played the lion's role witnessing an upward trend by 7% in 3 years from what concern the consumption for traction, and by 3% for what concern the consumption for other uses. Biodiesel as well experienced an increase over the period with a jump by 5% in 2022 with respect to the previous year. Fossil fuel, such as diesel and natural gas, indeed registered a strong reduction by -8 and -19 respectively. Alongside the energy analysis, it is crucial to focus on sectoral emission to understand the railway sector contribution to greenhouse gases emissions. In this graph, you can see both the direct and indirect emission from the railway sector. To logically account for the sectoral emission, we have selected two typical drivers. Scope 1 includes direct emission from the combustion of fossil fuels. In this category, emission from diesel and natural gas have decreased by 8 and 19% respectively. However, emission from other fuels increased significantly by 55% in 2022 compared to the previous year, although the overall contribution remains small. Scope 2 encompasses indirect emission from purchased electricity and other energy carriers. This category showed a 2% decrease thanks to the growing use of renewable energy sources in the Italian power sector. The significant increase in electricity consumption and the related decrease in CO2 emissions demonstrate the sector's proactive role in the energy transition, which can be fully exploited in 3 main ways. Identifying alternatives to diesel traction. By reducing Scope 1 CO2 emission, Italy aims to lower its carbon footprint and enhance the overall efficiency of its transport infrastructure. In this context, hydrogen and battery hybrid railway vehicles can play a significant role in replacing diesel on non-electrified lines, encouraging a modal shift to railways. Since the railway sector contributes minimally to global CO2 emission, shifting from more transportation to rail can have an overall benefit, especially as the power sector itself becomes more decarbonized, promoting distributed generation based on renewable energies. These can lead to cost saving for operators and further Scope 2 CO2 emission reduction. For example, replacing 1 kWh of the national grid mix, which is 40% renewable, with 1 kWh of 100% renewable energy can significantly enhance the sector's sustainability. This portfolio of innovative solutions has the potential to open new market spaces and introduce new value chains within the transport sector. This advancement can significantly boost for the economic productivity of the country, thus fostering economic growth. The increase in electricity demand due to fuel shifting and expanded capacity is noteworthy. Additionally, the introduction of alternative energy carriers, such as electric batteries and hybrid hydrogen fuel cell traction system, is gaining momentum. Along with this, the concept of energy communities is also emerging as an effective alternative. Therefore, the economic and social aspects of these alternative solutions must be part of a larger framework to meet emission targets. This approach could potentially lead to a revolutionary change, creating new growth opportunities and posing risk due to the need to deeply reconstruct economic activities or production processes by 2050. However, there are still barriers and challenges to the deployment of these alternatives that might not be fully addressed by the market forces alone and might require appropriate public policies. This would have a significant impact on the national energy sector, necessitating comprehensive and cross-sectoral planning. As the energy transition gains momentum, energy modeling becomes a valuable tool for optimizing station, vehicles, and lines, and identifying the space for such innovations. This helps inform decision makers and promote sustainable practice within the railway sector and beyond. In the following lessons, we will delve deeper into the analysis of the railway transportation sector. This will lay the groundwork for defining a comprehensive taxonomy and related archetypes to identify and study the energy hotspot within the sector.